Imagine paying for rent for 20 years and have nothing to show for it. Or imagine sinking thousands of dollars into repairs on a home. Which one would you choose? In today's market, the debate between renting versus buying has never been louder. Home prices have skyrocketed in the past few years, making home ownership difficult for even those who make above average income. Here's the thing, a lot of financial gurus love to cover the debate of buying versus renting. However, I think that they may be a little bit out of touch and can be misleading to the average income earner. These gurus may have owned multiple properties, they have high income, they invest and have a safety net that the average American or Canadians don't have. So when they give advice, it's not really coming from a practical perspective of, say, the average earner. So when they run the numbers and tell you that renting is better than owning a home, it can be pretty misleading for the average American in a consumer-driven society. Now, I have a different approach to this conversation. I rent and I also own a home in one of Canada's most expensive area, Toronto. I've lived on both sides and I have seen family members in their 60s who have been renting long-term and are still struggling, while the family members who have bought a home years ago are now mortgage-free and have something to rely on in their retirement. So in this video, I will be sharing the real pros and cons to renting versus buying and provide a breakdown of the actual cost that you need to know. I will provide with you my honest take, not from the perspective of a millionaire guru, but someone who's actually walked the walk in terms of both renting and buying in an expensive city, and seeing the outcome of both sides of the coin, renting versus buying, in family members who are in their 60s who have both bought a home and have it paid off to almost being paid off versus renting. Before we dive in, I just quickly want to ask, do you think renting is throwing away money, or do you see it as paying for flexibility? Drop your opinion in the comments below. So let's dive into the pros and the cons in renting. Since the pandemic, the housing prices have actually skyrocketed, but incomes haven't kept up. For middle to low income earners, renting have become the only realistic option. Now, a lot of people believe that renting is throwing away money or paying the landlord's mortgage. But the truth is, renting pays for a service. You do need a place to live and it's not wasted money. So here's the pros to renting. So the first pro is the cost of renting is predictable. You pay for your actual rent. You may or may not need to pay for utilities depending on whether it's included in the rent. You pay for renter's insurance. In some cities, landlords are limited by how much they can increase the rent every year. So this makes budgeting easier and makes your costs predictable. If prices go up too high, the good thing is that you're not locked in. You can simply move and find somewhere else to live that meets your budget and your needs. Renting is particularly great for young people who are just starting their career and they don't have that down payment or that income to purchase a home. And it's also for people who like flexibility of living in different cities where they're not stuck in one area. With that being said, there are some downsides to renting. So your landlord may decide that they want to sell the house and move back in which place you will be displaced from the home. You also can't decorate or renovate significantly without the landlord's permission. And yes, of course, unlike a home, you don't build equity over time. So in the next 10, 20, or 30 years, you do not have an asset to show for the money that you've put in over the years. If you're currently renting, what are the biggest perks to you? Is it the affordability, the flexibility, or the fact that you don't have to keep up with the maintenance? So shoveling the snow or mowing the lawn or doing those repairs. Share your thoughts in the comments below. So let's move on to own homeownership. Let's talk about the pros and the cons. So for many people, buying a home is still an ultimate financial goal. It's the American dream. It's one of the biggest purchases that you will have to make in your life. And it serves as a status symbol of being an adult and accomplishment. But beyond this, it's one of the ways that the average person can build wealth over time. So here are the pros to buying a home. So every mortgage payment builds equity. You're invested into an asset. Homes typically appreciate over time, which builds your net worth and leaves you with something to have in your retirement years. Another pro is that over the years, if you pay off your mortgage, you have an asset. You have something to call your own, and it will reduce the cost of living if your house is paid off and you only have to pay the utilities and other fees that is associated with owning a home. Also, owning a home is a forced savings that many people would not do otherwise over time. And of course, it provides stability and a space for you and your family to build roots and grow. But here's where the reality sets in. Buying a home comes with a big cost. With buying a home, you'll need to put down a down payment. So this is 20% of the cost of the house. But if you don't put 20% down, you'll need to pay mortgage insurance. So for example, if you purchase a $500,000 home and you put 10% down, you can expect a $10,000 fee to be added to the cost of the mortgage for mortgage insurance. Another fee is the closing costs, and this can range from 1 to 4.5% of the price of the home. So the mortgage interest, which is the cost of borrowing from the lender, is another fee that you will need to pay that is added to your principal that makes up your mortgage. Property taxes is another fee that you'll need to pay. So if you purchase a $500,000 home, you can expect to pay $5,000 to $8,000 per year, dependent on the area that you live. So let's not forget about the utilities and the maintenance. As a homeowner, you'll need to pay water, gas, hydro, and insurance, and have money saved in the scenario that you'll need to repair your home. So if you need to change your roof, or if something happens to the foundation of your house, that's a big cost that you'll need to consider. A rule of thumb is that you should save every year 1% of the total cost of your home. So for example, if you purchase a home that is $500,000, 1% of this would be $5,000 yearly, should be put aside for unexpected maintenance costs. This all seems like a lot to consider, and home ownership is expensive, but it's a path to wealth that has worked for millions of families. So here's where I stand with this rent versus buy debate. So I own a duplex outside of Toronto in which I rent, but I also live in Toronto and rent an apartment in which I was fortunate enough to acquire at a decent price. This has allowed me to, one, own a home and have someone else help to pay off the mortgage. While renting, I'm able to save and invest and accumulate more money versus having to put that money into paying off a mortgage. I'm not saying that renting is better than buying a home, but if buying a home will take up more than 40 to 50% of your household income, or you end up living house poor or finding yourself being stretched too thin, renting may be a good option for you. Or if you value flexibility and you don't have a family as yet, you can live with a roommate, you can live in a smaller space and you'll be okay. And if you don't want to deal with the upkeep of owning a home and paying all these fees that goes with a mortgage, renting is also a good option. But if you can afford to make the payments on a house and have to put in a little bit of sacrifice, but yet still not be stretched too thin, home ownership is the best option. Because as mentioned, every payment to your mortgage is like a forced savings account. It builds up equity over time. And if you have a paid off house later in the years where you may not be working anymore or retired, it gives you more options. I've seen firsthand relatives that have rented for 25 years struggle financially. Meanwhile, homeowners who stuck to their mortgage even when it was tough now own assets worth hundreds of thousands, if not millions. So they have become net worth millionaire over time. This amount of equity in your home means that you have a lot of options later on in life and when it comes to your retirement. So this is really where the financial gurus that make videos on buying versus renting really miss the mark. They often say that you should rent and invest the difference, but in reality, most people do not invest the difference. 85% of upper income workers invest in the stock market, while only 25 to 28% of lower income earners do. So for the average person, renting and investing the difference isn't really realistic because most do not invest. But if they have a home, that is a form of forced savings that will become theirs over time and they own this asset. So at the end of the day, renting has value, especially for its affordability and the flexibility that it provides. But if you're in a position to buy, even if it stretches you a little bit, it's often a smarter long-term move. Thank you so much for watching until the end. I truly appreciate your support. And if you found this video helpful, please don't forget to like and subscribe and share this video with a friend who may benefit from this information. Also, please check out my video on money lessons that I wish I knew in my 20s to help you to prevent the mistakes that I have made and help you grow and work towards building wealth.